You might have heard of this magical thing called a Synology Disk Station and how it can solve all kinds of problems for you. But all this is something I haven't really talked about much on my channel. I've actually been using Synologies for years, but what is a Synology really? Why do I keep using mine? And is it something that's more for your home or for your smart home automations? And what other really compelling alternatives should you consider before getting a Synology? If you're new here, I'm Eric Welander. I've been an app developer on Apple platforms since 2011 and building out my smart home here on YouTube since 2018. So if you're into Apple or smart home tech, consider subscribing. And thanks to Synology for recently upgrading me to the DS923 Plus, free of charge with no strings attached. This video is not sponsored. Let's say you have a Mac laptop. Well, you probably want to back it up, and maybe you also want some extra storage for archives, given how expensive Apple's internal storage is these days. An external drive is the logical option here, but it's only something you can use when it's plugged into your Mac, probably at your desk. And then you're only backing up your Mac when the drive is plugged in. Not to mention, if you choose a hard drive, the thing is probably making a lot of noise. If you have other Apple laptop users in your home, good luck getting them to diligently plug in a drive to back up their computer. A Synology is a NAS, or Network Attached Storage Device. It can sit on your home network, serving as a destination for Time Machine, for all these computers, and a place to share files wirelessly across your network. And unlike a lot of file systems, a Synology can use checksums to ensure your data doesn't get corrupted from hazards like bit rot, which can destroy files over time. Synology can catch this early, enabling you to restore the proper file from a backup before the bad version gets copied everywhere in your systems. You can also get to your shared files on iPhone and iPad using the Files app, or one of Synology's mini apps. In order to make all these YouTube videos, I keep an archive of past footage that I might need to use again. I don't have time every week to film new shots of all the products. Storing terabytes and terabytes of this data in the cloud could get really expensive, so keeping it locally on my Synology has no monthly cost aside from my electricity. I can also get at these files remotely using Synology's Quick Connect setup if I need to. It's not super fast as it's coming off of my home cable internet, but it can work in a pinch, especially for a PDF or other document. One of the other features I really like is backing up drives in the cloud, so you truly have a local copy of the information. Another common use for a Synology is serving movies and other video in your home. Synology works as a Plex server and is pretty easy to set up that way. Personally, I don't use this feature much. We tend to stream most content from the internet. Okay, maybe you do want to get a Synology, so what should you buy? Well, unlike a lot of tech companies, Synology actually follows a naming convention that mostly makes sense. Imagine that. I tend to focus on their Disk Station or DS line, with one exception we'll get to later. Then there's a number that indicates the maximum number of drives the system can support. This doesn't correspond to the number of open hard disk bays on the device though. Then the last digits indicate the model generation that somewhat corresponds to the year. So Synology sent me the DS, Disk Station 9, supports 9 disks, 23 Plus. The Plus series of disk stations is really what you want to focus on. It means you have Synology's best tech for data management and protection, like that checksum stuff that can catch bit rot that we talked about earlier. Most Synology disk stations are sold without hard drives. This means you need to get your own. You can get a variety of hard drive and SSD options from all the big manufacturers, but Synology also sells their own branded disks they ensure are compatible and optimized for Synology. Regardless of the disks you choose, you want to get ones that are rated for network attached storage or NAS performance. Your drives are going to be worked harder than drives just sitting in your computer. I used my own drives in my previous DS920 Plus, and then Synology sent me some of their drives with the DS923 Plus. Also keep in mind that you don't need to fill all your drive slots. If you're thinking of just using 2 drives, you might consider splurging for a Synology with 4 drive bays if you anticipate your storage needs to grow in the coming years. It's easier to just pop in another drive or 2 later on, rather than needing to replace one of only 2 drives in a setup. The more drives you have, the more protected you are against a data failure, depending on how you set up the disks. Setup is pretty straightforward. You can install your drives without any tools. Then you'll want to hardwire this with Ethernet into your main router. Once you get it connected and set up, it's a good idea to make sure your router settings are set to reserve an IP address for your Synology. There are a lot of ways to connect to your Synology, but having a fixed IP address just makes some of this easier. For your smart home, the big feature made by Synology is Synology Surveillance Station. This is a network video recorder that can take feeds from lots of different cameras, store the data locally, and give you nice web views and apps to look at it. If you're looking to do this with your Synology, you probably want to consider the DVA series from Synology, as it has more local processing for image recognition for objects in the video. Streaming video and writing to hard drives 24/7 is also very hard on disks. I wouldn't want the same drives I rely on for long-term data storage to be doing this with video surveillance footage. So for me, this solution isn't one I'd consider right now. There isn't the feature set to pull me away from using Ubiquiti Unify and Apple Home for my video. Then there's virtual containers. Synology's Container Manager app has a registry of pre-configured containers for all kinds of things, including popular smart home packages like Home Assistant, HomeBridge, and Scripted. The challenge here is setting them up and maintaining them inside virtual containers and putting them on your network. For things like Scripted, you'll end up dealing with proxies and ports and other things to get it all working. And I think your time and money is better spent with dedicated hardware for these tasks. I've relied on Synology for being network attached storage for years, and for that purpose, it's really good. But don't get a Synology thinking that it's also going to transform your smart home. Sure, you can find people online who do that, but I think in most cases, your attention for those needs is better spent elsewhere. Speaking of elsewhere, what other alternatives are out there for network attached storage that you should consider? A Synology is quickly approaching the price of an entry-level Mac Mini at $600. These little machines have a lot of power and can be used for a bunch of different tasks, including time machine and sharing drives and printers. Keep in mind that they don't have the integrity protection options of Synology out of the box, and when I've run a Mac Mini home server, I find that all the connected hard drives can sometimes get a bit unwieldy if you have multiple ones. A Mac Mini also doesn't come with a RAID controller or some way to bundle multiple hard drives together in a swappable system of disks like you have in a Synology. Well, a Mac Mini works without a screen. There will inevitably be reasons that you need to pull it out of the closet and connect it to a real monitor and keyboard and mouse for certain updates or troubleshooting. A Synology inherently doesn't have that issue. On the other hand, you can use a Mac Mini to have a local copy of your iCloud photo library on an external drive, and you can use powerful automation tools for files like Hazel. There are also network attached storage options out there from Ugreen as well as QNAP, which have competing platforms to Synology, and I haven't really played with them much, so I'm just going to skip over them in this video other than just mentioning they exist. Another new option here is the Ubiquiti UNAS Pro. I'm a big fan of Ubiquiti and I run their networking and surveillance equipment. This new UNAS Pro has a limited set of features compared to a Synology, but focuses on time machine and shared storage. And since it's ARM-based and not Intel-based like Synology, it's supposed to use a lot less power on your network. If you're already into the Ubiquiti system, this might be worth considering. For that dedicated smart home hardware I talked about earlier, I would look at things like Home Assistant Green or Yellow, or something like Homey Pro or Homey Pro Mini. All these options are way more focused on running smart home automations and bringing those options into Apple Home. What do you think? Are you more into a Synology or something like a Mac Mini home server or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.